On one hand, 5G promises much, latency, bandwidth, faster applications and so on. The bigger question remains what applications and will people pay for it? Right? And to that extent, I will, like you rightly said, cleave the market into two. One is B2C, where you still will try and figure out whether people will consume more data, what will they consume those data for, and what money does that make incrementally. I think the enterprise use case is far more interesting. Why? Because for the first time, 5G does represent the latency and the bandwidth that are required for very specific use cases, including ones that we see, and as we're demonstrating here, connected healthcare, where you're trying to connect vitals, data that is coming off very remote locations back to the mainstream, where you have doctors. So that is a method of, in some sense, telecare, virtual care, and connected health rolled together. We see very, very strong use cases around that. We see use cases around manufacturing, where again, of course, you're talking of automated guided vehicles in the factory, you're talking of far better connected factories and so on and so forth. The third is smart infrastructure, right? Again, in the context of smart city. But I'll still leave an underlying note here, the question of ROI, right? What does it cost to get such a thing on board, and will people pay for it? In this case, corporations, right? I think we are still a little far away from it.
Interesting. I'll just, in fact, take away from one of the aspects that you were touched upon in terms of cybersecurity. That I think is something that even the Prime Minister is in agreement with, that this is an aspect that we need to begin the dialogue now urgently, that anytime we talk about Industry 4.0, networks need to be secured. How critical is that, and how far behind the curve are we, if at all, in terms of the efforts that the private sector or the public sector may have made to come on board?
Yeah, see, if you're talking specifically of 5G, I think we are still just about starting the journey. And to be frank, it's not that the rest of the world is much further ahead either. Simply because the context of cybersecurity is that it's a bit of a chore police game. So it's not about when you started running. It's simply about where you are right now.
We're standing here at IMC.